Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat, and today I am doing my book wrap-up. I've stopped doing it by weeks or months, and I just do it whenever I have a chunk of books to wrap up for you. So today I have 2 DNFs and 3 books that I finished. And those 3 books are my number 95, 96, and 97 books of the year. I don't count my DNFs towards my reading, which I know is controversial, but I feel like because I didn't finish it all the way to the end, I can't really say one way or the other the star rating. So all I can do is tell you why I DNF'd it, why it didn't work for me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. This video is from my least favorite to my most favorite and what I'm currently reading. So... Oh, okay. The first book that I DNF'd is really controversial, and my feelings toward it are quite strong and quite the unpopular opinion, so please don't come for me. And if you really liked this book, I would love to hear why down below, but just know that it really didn't work for me. So this is We Cast a Shadow by Maurice Ruffin. This was one of my most highly anticipated books, I believe, of last year or whenever it came out, like early this year, I'm not sure. This is a satire or a political allegory of the near future where we are post racism, where it's like we progressed slightly and then we went backwards so much. So we are following an unnamed main character who has risen in the ranks to become a lawyer in his firm with the one goal of making enough money to get his son a procedure which can turn his skin white so that his son doesn't have to go through the same racism that he is experiencing and has experienced and that he fears for his son. Now, the setting of this book, great. The idea, brilliant. One of the main reasons this was so highly anticipated for me and I really wanted to read it is because I thought that the idea was really intriguing and kind of a dystopian future from a different perspective than I would ever, have read or know about before. So I thought it was going to be a really unique take on it. The reason why I couldn't make it through and I DNF'd it at 70%, so I was very close. There are 2 main reasons why I could not read this book any longer. One of them is the writing style. So writing style is very particular to the author, and what happens is each chapter goes sequentially, but then what happens is the beginning of the next chapter never follows the action of the previous chapter. It jumps around completely. So every single chapter beginning, it took me a while to recalibrate what was happening and who's even in the scene and what are we doing, how much time has passed, where are we, what has happened, because sometimes it would be the next day and sometimes it would be months later. And I find that very, I don't know, it really broke the reading for me, so I found it really hard to get over that hurdle with every new chapter. And then the second reason, and the ultimate reason why I stopped reading, was because the main character, the whole time, he wants to get his skin sun lightened against his son's wishes and against his wife's wishes. And the thing is that he lies to his wife, so the wife doesn't know that that's his ultimate goal and that he's secretly doing stuff with his son with that goal in mind. And then something happens, I'm not going to spoil it, but something happens, and the father continues on that goal when there had been something that happened that was so devastating that you think that he would have decided another course of action to protect his family, to protect his son. I just couldn't take it anymore. So yeah, this is a huge DNF for me, and it's quite controversial. I know that a ton of people have loved it, so if you would love to see another review of it where someone actually really loved it, I know that Russel at Ink and Paper Blogs loves this, so if you want the other side of the coin on this one, then also check out Russel's. So I will leave his comments about it down below. I'll have the link to it down below if you are considering and you would like to see someone else's review. Because again, I'm only one person, and one of the things is writing style, which is totally subjective. So yeah. Okay. The second book that I DNF'd was Sugar Run by Mesha Maren. So in this one, we are following the main character who has recently gotten out of prison after 18 years and she has two goals. Her first goal is to go south to pick up something or do something that she promised someone 18 years ago, and her second goal is to then, after that, go back up to North Carolina into the woods where her grandmother has left her a log cabin, and to live out her days there in peace. Now, this book was doing absolutely what it said on the tin. Absolutely. However, it was so boring. So boring. At any minute, I was waiting for something to happen. Anything, like tension, anything. It's literally, she gets out of jail, then she goes to a motel, then she's trying to figure out that task, and then it's like everything that you know, it's like a plot point, but there's never any action. It's like a flat line. So I was waiting for like some creepy tension to build, or like for some antagonism between characters, but just didn't happen. So this is a boredom DNF, because I kept thinking of like, I kept starting other books and finishing other books like around this book. So I just decided it's not for me, I guess. I don't really recommend it. I just found it really boring. So great idea. I just don't think it was for me. Okay, so after that, I DNF'd both of those, and then I was feeling pretty crappy. I was in a reading slump, and if you guys have been watching my channel or are new here, hi. After I go into a reading slump, the quickest way to get me out of a reading slump is a quick romance. So usually I breathe through romances. I'll read them in like 2 or 3 hours, and for this one I picked up His Saint by Lennox. This was just like one of the first ones I saw on my Kindle. It's actually the 5th in a series, so I totally stuffed that up, and I'm not reading sequentially. But it is following Augie, who is an antique dealer who comes from a very wealthy family, and Saint, who is kind of hired as his trainer after Augie has a break-in at his house and stuff is kind of broken and trashed, and possibly things are stolen, and Augie is kind of fearing for his safety. So this is a male-male romance. I found it overall pretty sweet. At the time I gave it 3 stars. I might drop it to 2. No, I think it's still 3, because I liked it. It was great. It cleansed my palate, but it is largely forgettable. I have no attachment to the characters. It's been about a week now, and I've forgotten mostly what happened, but it did get me out of my reading slump. So, the next book that I would like to talk about is The Water Cure by Sophie Mackintosh. So I gave this book 3.5 stars. So we are following a family who lives in a very remote peninsula, and there is a mother and a father and then their daughters, and they have raised their daughters by telling them that the outside world is very dangerous and men corrupt, dirty, and kill women. So women, they have been raised up fearing men until one day men wash up on the shores of their little area that they live in. So this book I could not put down at all. It was pretty amazing in that regard. I really loved the writing, and also the writing style is creepy and like just enough detail where like you can sense something like is not right, if that makes sense. Like it's a very atmospherically creepy, and in that way I think I liked it so much because it reminds me a lot of Japanese creepiness, like where it's not necessarily horror, although yeah, Japanese does have a lot of straight up bloody horror, but there are also writers who do a lot of atmospheric, creepy, lingering horror or creepiness, and that's what I felt with this book. The reason though that it gets 3.5 stars is because I think that the plot could have been a lot tighter and a lot stronger, and also I thought that it lagged in the middle somewhat. Like the beginning set up this like really creepy isolated world, the end was really fast paced, but the beginning had a bit of a saggy bottom. So for me this is like 3.5 stars, and again this is a very polarizing book, but personally I really liked it, so I give it 3.5 or 4 stars. So yeah, that was great. And then a book which is quite different is Lost Boy by Sassafras Lowry. I gave this book 4 stars. So this is a queer punk BDSM retelling of Peter Pan, and the imagination that it took for this is amazing. It is not fantastical at all. It's very much real life, but all of the characters have been repurposed, down to Tinkerbell is now a pigeon. So this story is narrated by Peter Pan's best boy, Toodles, who is watching what happens to Pan and to Neverland, and as Pan finds Wendy and finds Michael and brings them to Neverland. So in this world, Neverland is a warehouse that Pan keeps for his Lost Boys, and the Lost Boys are all of varying different stages of transitioning between genders, and he cuffs them and he calls them his Lost Boys. And one of the hallmarks of Pan's Neverland is that they don't go by strict BDSM rules. They live by like SM day, where they're in the scene all of the time. Whereas in opposition is Hook's BDSM dungeon, where Hook is basically a BDSM dungeon master who plays by very strict rules, and he is kind of like the captain of his ship, as it were, and that's why Pan and Hook have such an antagonistic relationship, because Pan believes that there shouldn't be that much rules and that he should be able to do whatever, and then Hook is all for rules, and he's the adult who like really is all about rules and playing by, you know, the book, and that's the source of their antagonism. And then also there is the Mermaid Lagoon, which is a floating houseboat of prostitutes who dress in like very glittering regalia and like glitter sequins all the time. They're dancers, they're prostitutes, they're showgirls, and escorts. And it was just so interesting. And in this, the crocodile is heroine, and it's so gritty, and I like really enjoyed it. I do think that there are a lot of triggers for certain people regarding self-harm, safe BDSM play, drug use. So I'm going to leave a full list of triggers down below. So if you are thinking of reading this, please do have a look and make sure that it's something that you could stomach or be fine with reading. I don't want anyone to read something that they shouldn't be reading for them personally, but I thought this was ingenious, and I will be reading more from Sassafras Lowry. I really think that this was amazing, and this is probably my favorite Peter Pan retelling. The only thing that I have to say is that this has the most aggressive deckled edges I have ever seen. Like, the amount of deckling here is just crazy. Like, really crazy. So I don't mind deckled edges if they have to exist, fine, but these are like aggressive. So yeah, Lost Boy, check it out if that sounds like it would be up your alley. Okay, and now we get to the two books which I'm currently reading. So I am currently reading Frankissstein by Jeanette Winterson. Now, if you've been watching me for a little bit, you might know that I DNF'd Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson. I didn't really get on with it that well. This is a completely different story. I am loving life reading this book. So there are two storylines. The first one is a retelling, a reimagining of The Great Weekend, where Mary Shelley, Percy Shelley, Lord Byron, another one of their friends, and then his lover Claire are all at this isolated like castle manor on the lake. And it's raining all weekend, and they really can't go out that often. So instead, they sit around the fire and they are coming up with ghost stories or creepy stories. And that is where Mary Shelley comes up with the idea and starts writing Frankissstein, and also Lord Byron comes up and writes the first vampire novel, I believe. So we're alternating that with a futuristic timeline where there is a transgender doctor named Rye who is assisting Victor Stein, who is a leading AI scientist, and together they are trying to create a new brand of AI. It is so good so far. I'm about halfway through. I'm hoping that I'll get to finish it tonight, and I'm loving it. So yeah, I can't wait to fully wrap this up and let you guys know if it held up along the way. And the other one I'm reading is The Sea Beast Takes a Lover by Michael Andreasen. So this one is a collection of dark, creepy short stories. I'm just reading it before bed, a story a night, And yeah, I'm having a great time. If you found a new book you want to read, let me know down below, or if you have any books to recommend that you think I would like, please do let me know. So if you guys are new here, I usually read queer, dark, creepy, or translated fiction, and I usually try to read stuff that is maybe outside of what most people know. So if that sounds intriguing to you, please do hit the like button or subscribe. That would be amazing. I look forward to seeing you guys in another video. I will chat to you later. Bye!